Hi, welcome to video 3 in this series of making a Tic Tac Toe game in C++. In the first video we kind of just commented out how we're going to have the game flow go. In video 2 we added in our variables, and now we're going to start adding in some code based on what we have there for comments. So see the random number generator. So we've seen this one before, and we use time, and that's null, and that's it. That's seeded. Now we need to get our players' names and add them into our array. And I had made a mistake earlier when we were creating variables, and I had actually left out the variable name player here, so it just said string and then the 3, but we need to make that say string player and its array of 3. So we're going to prompt the user, cout what is a player's name? Put a couple of spaces, and cn, we're going to put that into player 1, and system, double quotes, CLS for clear screen. That's a Windows specific command, so if you're using a different operating system that won't work. Then we're going to prompt for the other name, cout what is the other player's name, a couple of spaces, cn, and that's going to go into player 2. Then we're going to flip a coin to see which one of those players is actually going to go first. And we're going to put this into a function. And by the way, just like I mentioned in the last video, a lot of these variables that I made global, I wouldn't normally do. A lot of the function, and actually every function in here, I would typically write them in line so there were no function calls. But I am going to put in a lot of function calls on here because it makes the code a little bit easier to read. And that makes it easier for a novice. So in here we're going to make, we said there's a variable called coin toss winner, and that's going to equal the results of a function called coin flip. That doesn't take any parameters. Now we haven't got that function written yet, so it's still a little, it's going to show up here as it doesn't recognize it. And we're going to go just for formatting, cout endline. Now we're going to display the winner of the coin toss to the two players. So let's see. Here we go. First of all, we have to actually set which players. Now, bear in mind we have one player who is in the player 1 spot, and we have another player who's in the player 2 spot. So if that result is going to come back either heads or tails, if it's heads, the person who put their name in first is going to be the first player. If it comes back tails, it's going to come back, whoever's in player 2 is going to be the first player. So we're going to say, this should actually go up here. We're going to say if coin toss winner equals capital T, then and we're going to have another function that is called swap players. And that doesn't take any parameters, and it doesn't return anything, so we don't have to have any variable there. So basically what that swap players is going to do is take whoever's in player 1 and put it into the player 2 spot, and who's ever in player 2 and put it into the player 1 spot. And now we're going to display the display this information, who won the coin toss on the screen. So we're going to say, let's clear this. We'll leave it there. We'll go cout player 1, and in quotes, and we'll have a space, wins the coin toss and goes first. And then we're going to put in, just for formatting, a few empty lines. End line, end line, end line, one more, end line. And then we're going to use system pause. That'll display that, hit any key to continue message. So once they've read who the winner is, they'll hit a key, and then we'll be going into our main loop. Now, what we're going to do is, once we're in the main loop, we have to, first of all, we have to reset some of the game variables. So, as I said before, there's a variable that counts how many moves players have made, and that can max out at 9, and then the game ends in a tie. So, each time we start this game, we need that to make sure that is set back to 0. So we'll do that here. Moves is the name of the variable. Equals 0. And we also need to set the current player equals 1, because we don't know, the game might have ended with the current player 2 as like a winner or something. And that is it for now. So then we move into the actual game loop, and of course, like I said, we have to count the moves. So we're going to say moves plus plus. That just increments it by 1. So when the game starts, it starts off at 0. So it comes in here and immediately goes to the first move. For drawing the board on the screen, we're actually just going to call a special function that does that, and that's going to be called draw board. It doesn't return any variables, and it doesn't take any variables. And we'll write that function in a later video. So now we have the board on the screen, and we need to get the input from the current player as to where he wants to move. So we have a variable called choice that's going to hold that number, and we're going to call a function there called move where, and that's basically going to be it's going to use our previously written header for input validation to get a number, and then it's actually going to make sure that number is a valid number between 1 and 9. Once that's all validated, it'll return the number back to us, and we'll put it into choice. Actually, one other thing it'll do is it will make sure that even though it's a number between 1 and 9, it will also make sure that the space hasn't already been used. So say there's already an X in position 5, the user won't be able to hit 5 and change it to an O. So now we want to, once we have what they're, that they've made a valid move, what we're going to want to do is change the character that's stored in this array to whether they're an X or an O. Now, the way this game is set up, player 1 is always going to be X's and player 2 is always going to be O's. So we don't really have to change whether they're an X or an O here. We can just go, we can go XOS choice, because that's where the variable is stored, equals XO current player. So remember, choice has a number between 1 and 9. That's a valid place to move. XOS is an array of all 9 positions on the Tic Tac Toe board. So when they hit a number, say 5, we're going to change position 5, the one pointed to by choice, to whether or not they're an X or an O. And X or O is always going to be based on the current player. So now we want to see, did that make the player win the game? And we're going to have the check done in another function that's going to return an integer. So we're going to say if, and we're going to call that function check for winner, and we're going to pass to it the current player, and if there is a winner, we're going to set a flag that's Boolean called winner equals true, and then we're going to break out of the while loop that we're in. Now, if there is no winner, then the code will continue going down here. It'll never hit that break, but we do have to see if there's any moves left in the game. If there's not, then the game would be over. So we're going to put another if statement. If moves equals 9, the maximum amount of moves in the game, then we just break. So when we do break out of this loop, it's either going to come up as winner equals true or winner equals false. Now that means we're going to have to set winner equals false at the beginning of our back where we, let's see, back here where it says reset some game variables, we're going to have to say winner equals false. All right, so now if we didn't break out of the loop, that means the game is still going, and we have to change our current player. So that's going to be just a simple if statement. If current player equals 1, actually we want that to equals 1, then current player equals 2, else current player equals 1, because that can only toggle between 1 and 2. So if current player equals 1, then we're going to change it to 2. If this statement isn't true, that means that current player is already 2, since those are the only 2 options. And so then we just need to change it to current player equals 1. So that is it for our for each turn of the function. And I'm just going to run through it one more time, kind of as an overview. So each time the game starts, we're going to increment the number of moves. We're going to draw the board on the screen. We're going to get which choice they decided to move to, and we're going to set that to their character, either an X or an O. We're going to check to see if they won. If they did, then we're going to set the winner to true, and then we're going to break out of that loop, break out of this loop. If there is no winner, then we're going to check to see if the game is still ended in a tie. If it did, we'll break out of the loop, but winner will not be set to true. If it's not a tie, then we're just going to swap players, and we're going to do the loop all over again. So in the next video, we will add in our code for what happens when we break out of the loop. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.